All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. I'm here with Chris, Malpass. Tell me about yourself.
About myself? Wow. What do you want to know? I mean,
Where did you grow up? That's what I want to know.
I was born in Virginia. My dad was in the Navy, and so he was stationed at Norfolk for the first 12 years of his career, and so I was born a year into that. So I lived 11 years in Virginia Beach area, and then he would go out on cruises on the ships for like 6 months at a time.
That's not a deployment, it's cruise.
Yeah, exactly. They call them cruises, and we got tired of that, him being away. He got tired of that, being away from me and my sister and my mom. And so he took an assignment to Sicily, Italy, and we moved there. It was the first time I'd been on a plane. And we flew over to Italy, and we lived there for 3 years. Then we came back. He went to San Diego to do some schooling, and he transferred from being a helicopter avionics mechanic to being a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. And so he did 6 months of training in San Diego. Me and my mom, my sister went to South Carolina with her family for 6 months. And then we all moved to Puerto Rico, and he did his new job there for 3 years.
Right, you've been everywhere. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
But so you were moving around a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, what 12 years in Norfolk and then moving around after that a lot.
Yeah. I graduated high school in Puerto Rico. Then I moved to Colorado for college. And then...
What college did you go to out in Colorado?
The Air Force Academy.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I joined the Air Force, and I went to pilot training in Oklahoma for a year. And then we moved to Ohio for 3 years, and I flew a Lear 35, a little business jet. And then we moved to Oklahoma again to do 4 months of training for my next airplane, the big cargo plane, the C-5. And we moved to California for 3 more years and did that.
So what was that like for you? Because you said that when you were growing up, you guys didn't like moving around a lot.
Well, I didn't mind moving.
Oh, you didn't mind?
Yeah,
okay.
it was great. I mean, we went all over Europe when we lived in Italy, and I got to see Israel, I got to see Jerusalem, got to see Turkey, Germany, just all over the place. We went traveling, and it was really cool. Greece, and kids don't normally get to experience that kind of thing, and so it was a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, it was great, and I got to actually, when I took a language in high school, when we lived in Puerto Rico, I actually got to use it some. A lot of people just learn language and they get some of the vocabulary and never get to use it. And it's nice to be able to be someplace that you can actually talk the language. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I kind of wanted that for my kids, to kind of see, different parts of the world instead of just North America. But the plane I was flying, the C-5, it doesn't really have bases overseas. So I kind of resigned to, giving up on that hope. But then I got out of the Air Force in 2007.
How long were you in?
I was in, technically I signed up for 5 years of schooling. I did the prep school and then the academy for 5 years, commissioned in 1999, and I got out in 2007. So 8 years of active duty commissioned service. And so I had 3 years break in service. I got out. And they paid me to get out, which was great. And I knew that the deployments were getting longer, and I'd have to go on like a year remote away from the family, and I didn't want anything to do with that. So I decided to get out and, throw my hand at flying, being a corporate pilot on the outside. And about a year and a half into that, the Air Force sent me a letter asking me to come back in. And I just, was going to throw it away. And then Rebecca, my wife, said, why don't we just see where we could go? And so I filled out the application. And it turns out they're only looking for a few locations, but one of them was Germany. And so it was a non-flying assignment. So I haven't flown for the Air Force since 2007. But we ended up going to Germany, and I was able to take the family out there, put the kids in the German school, and they got to have the experience too. We got to travel all around Europe and Africa, and a couple places in Africa, and just see the sights, Asia. Yeah, it was really cool. And my kids, we stuck them in the German school. So my oldest daughter, Shauna, she's still fluent in German. The younger two, they kind of were too young to really retain a lot of it. I mean, they can still understand a little bit, but they're not fluent like Sean is.
I didn't even know she was fluent in German.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long were you guys in Germany for?
It was supposed to be 3 years, but I whittled it down to 2.5 because I wanted to take a reserve job that was out there. And in order to do that, I had to shorten the orders. And so we spent 2.5 years full time out there. And then I took the reserve position. We moved back to Colorado, and then I would commute from Colorado out to Germany, mostly once a year, because you get like 24 days a year to do your job out there. So I'd bunch it all together, go out in the summer when the weather was nice, and do the job out there in like July. But then I'd volunteer like a month here, a month there, 2 months here, and bring the family over. The last time, like in 2017, we all came over and did like, Christmas in Germany, and the kids got to come over during Christmas break, 2-3 weeks, and just hang out in Germany and go to little Christmas markets they have over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard about those.
Yeah.
Are they nice?
They're great, man.
Yeah.
Great food, drinks, desserts. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got this like little bread thing, sort of like a manapua, but it's sweet, and they put like vanilla sauce on top of it.
Okay.
It's warm. It's really good, and it's cold outside because it's Christmas time, and they have these like warm drinks. They call it Kinderglühwein for the kids. It doesn't have alcohol in it, and then they add alcohol to the adult one, the Glühwein.
Make it even better.
Yeah, man, and it's warm, and it warms the cockles of your heart.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what the cockles are, but that's awesome. What was it like having because you had your kids? Where you guys had them while you were in?
Shauna, we had in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
And then the other two we had when we were at Travis Air Force Base in California, Northern California, up there by Napa area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Napa seems pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lake up there called Lake Berryessa, and whenever the kids were cranky, I'd throw them in the back seat, and we'd go right around this lake, and it was just twisty, curvy roads, and just put them to sleep. Like
dude, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what I do now, but I got to drive back and forth in my neighborhood because Hawaii is small. What is it like for you when you got out that first, like, what made you want to get back in?
I actually didn't want to get back in. Rebecca's the one that convinced me to do it, and it's a good thing she did. It was like a God thing because unbeknownst to me at the time, I was about to get laid off from my civilian job. This was around 2008 when the housing market
everything
collapsed.
Was crashing.
Yeah, I flew for a corporate company called NetJets, and they flew all these, big time CEOs, movie stars, sports figures, and stuff like that. And one of the people that they had as a client was Bernie Madoff. And as you'll remember,
that guy,
yeah, the pyramid scheme guy. And so once his pyramid scheme fell apart, all his buddies that he had in his pyramid also were clients of NetJets. And so they lost a ton of money, and then the housing market collapsed. And the way the contracts were written, it was really easy for them to sell back their shares. And that's usually the first thing to go in a recession is like the luxury travel. We don't really need that. We've got our luxury homes that we can live in, our luxury cars we can drive in. So they sold back their shares, and they ended up laying off almost 500 pilots.
Wow.
For 5 years, and I was one of those guys.
Wow, you were about to be one of those guys.
Exactly, but God worked it out. He spoke to Rebecca, and she convinced me to do the paperwork. We got it all lined up, and the day I got laid off in January of 2010, I rolled right into my military job in February of 2010, and they had like a separation pay for 2 months. So for a month, I was getting 2 paychecks.
Wow, that's nice.
God just worked it out.
Praise God for that.
Yeah.
We could all use 2 paychecks right now.
No doubt.
It's crazy. So it seems like flying was in your blood, man. You got your dad and you, yeah?
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. He worked around helicopters a lot. We see the Blue Angels come to town, and they do their, formation flying and all their acrobatics. And I really dug that. And then I saw a movie when I was a kid called Daryl. It was an acronym.
I thought you were going to say Top Gun.
No.
I was like, bro.
I never saw Top Gun until I was in college. And it's, the first was a little cheesy. I like the remake a little.
The new one is good.
Yeah, the new one's good.
Yeah.
But this little kid, he's like an AI robot, and he looks like a normal kid. And they send him like to a foster home or something. And he doesn't know he's a robot, but he eventually figures it out, and he has to get back. They're like going to deconstruct him or something, you know, like short circuit.
Deconstruction.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. So he ends up stealing an SR-71 from the Air Force base and flies it. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So once I, saw that movie as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to be a pilot, like this kid is.
Did you ever fly a SR-71?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't talk about it anyway.
Yeah, those things are in the museums now. They don't fly those around, but those things were great airplanes. Really, really neat.
Dude, so what was who was the most famous person you drove around? Flew around. My bad.
Yeah, I'm not really supposed to talk about who I flew, but I will just say, we flew I flew around NASCAR guys, NFL dudes, famous golf people, movie stars. So I did fly around some famous people. But technically, we're not supposed to say
don't say
who they are.
Don't get canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're flying, I heard that a lot of I heard that with private flights, there tends to be more accidents.
Really?
That's what I heard. So I heard that a lot of times celebrities or things like that, people playing for like private planes will like they just want to take off now, or if the conditions aren't great, they feel pressured to fly anyway.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, they investigated with the helicopter thing, right? With Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, that's right.
And the investigation was like that pilot should not have flown.
Right.
And sometimes pilots feel pressured to this. Do you ever felt like that?
It's true. That part of it's true. When you're flying high profile people and they say, hey, I got to be somewhere now, then a lot of times you feel that pressure to go. But NetJets was a big corporation. It was like on par with American Airlines, like 400 plus airplanes. So they taught us in our training that they would stand behind us when it came to safety of flight issues. So it was really great. There was even a story that went around of the CEO like canceling some famous person's contract because they argued with the pilot about whether they should go or not. The pilot stood their ground and said, hey, no, we're not going. This is, safety issue. And they got all mad and said, hey, you're going to lose your job. And then the CEO just cut them out of the program and said,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So they
that's good.
They stood behind us in that way, which is good because you don't want to have an accident in your company because then nobody want to fly with you. So they definitely wanted to go the safe route and have, stand behind the pilots that way. Yeah.
See, that's crazy because I hate flying.
Yeah.
Like my least favorite thing to do in the world is fly.
Really?
Like I don't like taking unnecessary risk.
Right.
Okay. If I didn't have to drive, I wouldn't drive.
Right.
Like I'm just a safe.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in me that goes, this is where you and I are different probably. Because after hearing your story, like I never grew up and thought to myself, I want to see the world. Mm-hmm. Like I just the places I've seen is because either I'm going there for work.
Right.
God's taking me on a mission trip to serve people, or I'm there for school and I'm visiting my cousin or something like that. Like, so all the places I've been, whether it's a big city or another country, has been just like forced on me.
Oh yeah.
So like when I can get out of flying anywhere, I'm just like, I'm not flying.
Exactly. Well, they do say that flying is like safer than driving.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So as a risk perspective, as a risk averse person, you should be more okay with flying than you are driving to the airport. Yeah.
I'm also afraid of being taken,
Yeah.
Even though
you stay away from those Eastern Bloc countries.
I don't want to be taken, bro. Don't take me.
Right.
Not that I'd be worth anything though if I got taken. I just don't want to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was me. Like I just kind of like being on my island. Like when I went away for college, it was just because I had to go to college.
Right. Yeah, in pilot training, we got to like do acrobatics and spin airplanes and fly formation. That stuff was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really close to the other airplane, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you love flying?
Oh yeah.
Passion of yours?
Yeah.
And then, so how did you go through all of that and end up back in Hawaii? Here in Hawaii.
Well, I was doing my reserve job out in Germany, and we were living in Colorado. My wife's originally from Colorado, so that's where I've lived.
Oh, what part of Colorado is she from?
Manitou Springs. Right?
No idea what that is.
It's at the base of the Rockies, right by Colorado Springs.
Shout out Manitou Springs.
Yeah, it's a great place. A big tourist area. They've got lots of. It's just a really cool mountain town right at the base of the Rockies, and it's a really neat place, and lots of people like to go there and just see the sights. And so they've got a place like Cocoa Head, but it's like twice as long and twice as high, and so they call it the Incline. And and a lot of people go and hike that. And the railroad ties up the side of the mountain, pretty steep. But yeah, just lots of fun stuff to do in Manitou Springs. And I met her, my senior year in college, and yeah, so we knew each other about a year and got married.
So she was in the academy as well?
She was not at the academy.
Okay.
She was going to a church that I was going to.
Oh, wow.
The college group program. Actually, my first night at this college group was her first night. And yeah, we met each other, became friends. And,
how long till you guys got married?
it was about a year.
Oh, wow. Quick.
Yeah. We started dating like in April, and then we were married in September. And yeah, the rest is history.
That's the best. How old are you when you guys got married?
I was 23.
That's a good age. That's what I was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 23 years old, and we're going to be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this September.
Wow. Congrats.
Thanks, man.
Right. You made it.
Yeah, we made it.
Dude, you guys, wow. That's awesome.
Yep.
Dude, yeah. I talk to a lot of people, and I'm like, bro, getting married young was like the best. I hear a lot of stories about people that didn't end up going well.
Right,
but I think like given when I look at the just totality of like people that got married young, that love Jesus, that love each other,
right.
like, man, it's the best. Like I only wish I was in a position just maturity wise to get married sooner.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been the best,
Right.
But like all my adult life and my adult experiences I have with my wife, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife is younger than I, but she's more mature than me, so it works out well.
Yeah. That works out well, yeah. Yep. There you go, you catch up. Can you imagine you and your wife being the same age, how immature you would have been at that time, just like me?
Exactly.
That's like, that would not have been good.
Exactly.
We met at the right time.
Yeah, we were originally going to wait like 5 years before we started having kids, but then she changed her mind, and we decided to have kids a little bit earlier. So I was like 25 when we had Shauna. Mm-hmm. And now she's about to have a baby and about to be a grandpa for the first time.
How you feeling?
So, yeah, feeling all right, I guess. Yeah.
Feeling young. But see, this thing, you got energy still.
Yeah, I can still, teach a kid how to play basketball or whatever. Yeah, it should work out.
You guys are young. To me, that's the best.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's what I want to be.
Yeah, we still have energy to, like go travel or whatever. We love to travel. But I mean, I guess sometimes people wait and they travel first and then they have kids and they settle down. And some people have the kids first and then send them out of the house and then they go travel.
Yeah.
I guess either way it works.
Yeah. I was too broke to do that. So we gotta wait till they're done, till they're gone. But we about to have a blast later.
Yeah, man.
We're having a blast now, actually.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun having kids, and we're excited with the new grandkid. It'll be a fun time.
Yeah. So any minute now.
Yeah, man. Any minute. The due date was Monday, so
let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
So you guys in Colorado doing the reserve job, and then you said 2017 around there?
Yeah, 2017, the summer of 2017, I was in Germany doing my reserve job, and Rebecca called me. And the way my civilian job worked, I was gone every other week. So I was off a week, I was on a week, off a week, on a week. And so half the month, Rebecca's being a single mom with the kids, with 3 kids, and she was, getting tired of that. And I was, away from my reserve job. I was away from my civilian job. And I wanted, to spend more time with them and see my kids' events, the plays, the games, and all that jazz. And so she calls me up and she's like, why don't you apply for Hawaiian Airlines? And I was like, wow, that's a great idea, because I lived in Puerto Rico and I loved the tropical island lifestyle. I always wanted to get back to that. And I wasn't sure how it was going to work out, but it made a lot of sense. And I looked into it, but Hawaiian Airlines only opens up an application window like once a year, like in the fall, and it wasn't open. So I called her back and I was like, hey, there's no application window open, but once it opens up, then I'll apply. And she's the type of person who does a lot of research, and she's like, hey, I found this job. Hey, I found this job. And so she looked into it and she found a couple of jobs in Hawaii for smaller regional airlines. And she said, I found a couple of these regional airlines that you could work for, and we could move out there and do that. And then you could try to get hired on by Hawaiian, as you go along. And so I looked into it, and one of the airlines was Ohana, which was Hawaiian's own regional. They flew the ATR prop planes. And so I was like, yeah, they had just given a raise to their company that summer, and it was feasible to do for like a year, two, try to get on with Hawaiian and see if it worked out. And if it didn't work out, then we'd, move back to the mainland, and no harm, no foul. At least we tried. So we moved out here. We sold everything we had. We threw some stuff into a 6x7x8 container. We shipped that out to Hawaii, and that was all we owned in the world besides 2 cars we shipped over to. And that was it. We came out to Hawaii on a wing and a prayer, and, God opened the doors and flew for Ohana for a year and a half, and ended up getting hired by Hawaiian Airlines in 2019. And so I've been with them for about 5 years now, and we're in Hawaii. I'm home almost every night, and I get to see the kids grow up, and now the grandkid. And so it's been a dream living in Hawaii. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. We've been here 6 years now.
Wow. Okay. So you flew over here. You moved over here. Mm-hmm. How did you find Harbor? Because that's what we met. We met at Harbor Church. That's right. Yeah. So we met at Harbor Church, and yeah.
Yeah. We always, like to find a church family wherever we go. And so when we first moved here, we started going to a church called New Hope on Sand Island. And we were, feeling that out. We went there for almost 6 months. And about that time, we figured out, hey, this isn't really, this is too big for us. And Rebecca started listening to like podcasts, sermons online. And she heard Matt. And so we tried out Harbor Town in Kaka'ako. And we liked it, and so that's where we went. We went there for 5 years, and then you guys did the church plant in Waipahu, and I remember you guys inviting us to go with that. That wasn't the right timing for us, but we always wanted to come visit. And so your year anniversary there was our first time that we came and visited Waipahu, and we just really dug the vibe and the small feel and the real family style feel of it. And we were like, yeah, we could do this. So we switched over from Harbor Town to Harbor Waipahu, and yeah, we've been going there since the year anniversary.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You guys have been a blessing. One of the things that's interesting is I can't, like there's times when people come to church and they like they're here for a short period of time, and but for you guys, I don't even remember when you guys came, like when you guys got involved, because it almost feels like you guys jumped in and got involved so quickly that I don't remember being in Kaka'ako and you guys not being there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's how involved and like that's how much you guys were serving. You know, like I can't even. I was like, what? I feel like you guys just been at Harbor as long as I've been at Harbor. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's a testament to you guys jumping in and getting involved. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're talking about a church family, it's family, and you want to help out with the family. I'm really big on community groups and just getting like a small group where you can like open up and be transparent and kind of share your burdens and prayer requests with other people and live life with people and just help each other out. And I think that's what the Christian family is all about. And then just being part of the church and finding ways that you can fit in and do stuff. And me and Rebecca have always, like worked with kids or worked with community groups or just wherever we could fit in. Doing the security team now with
the best
with the Waipahu, and then Rebecca and Kaylee doing nursery. I helped with nursery when Kaylee got sick last week, and me and Rebecca have been doing the lay counseling ministry too. So
yeah, that's right. The counseling, yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, you guys do a lot. You guys are involved in a lot, which is to me awesome. Were you always like that? Like when did you when did you start seeing the church as a family? Because for me, like I didn't see like that till much later in my life.
Yeah, my dad and my mom were Christians. When they had me, my dad actually got saved in boot camp, and my mom was already a Christian.
In boot camp?
Yeah, in boot camp.
When did you have time to get saved in boot camp?
I don't know, man.
Who was doing this evangelism? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like who was doing that?
Exactly. I don't know, man, but it worked out. My mom was already a Christian. She got saved when she was a teenager. And he came back and got involved with the church. And there was another guy that was in the Navy that he was good friends with. And they were going to the same Baptist church. And eventually his friend did a church plant and made his own, like a Fellowship Bible Church, I think it was called, or something like that. It was like a non-denominational thing. And so, yeah, my dad's always been tight with his Christian friends. And so we've always been a part of a church. Or my mom and dad have always, they used to do teen ministry. And sometimes we'd have times we'd have a teen mom in our house living with us, just supporting her and helping her keep the baby and giving her resources and stuff like that. So my family has always been involved like in that kind of manner. So when I went off on my own, I got involved in a parachurch organization called Officers Christian Fellowship. And they really equip you and teach you how to lead and start Bible studies and stuff like that. And so ever since I graduated, I was always, starting Bible studies or co-leading Bible studies and stuff like that. And just always being a part of that kind of thing, just being involved. Was
Rebecca a part of, did she grow up in the church as well, or similar to you?
Yeah, she grew up in the church as well. She was raised by her mom. Her dad left early on when she was little, but her mom was always involved in the church, raising 4 kids.
Wow.
And so... yeah, she was always in the church. She actually grew up at Summit Ministries, which is in Manitou Springs, and her mom worked there, and they do a big teen ministry. They have people there like all the time. I don't know if it's a summer thing or if it's year round, but they have all these classes for teenagers, and it's, Bible school basically. And so she grew up in that, and so she was always around, older kids and always around the Word, and so. Yeah, she's always been involved in that kind of thing too.
Wow. So were there challenges for you just being in the military, kind of trying to find churches when you guys were moving, or was that ever a challenge for you guys, or you guys always just made it a point to find a church and get involved?
Yeah, sometimes, you're in small towns or international, and there's options, but they're not a lot of options, and maybe not the best options that you would find maybe in a place that has a lot of churches, a lot of different denominations, a lot of different options. But yeah, we made it work. We always would, try a few, and then wherever we felt God was leading us, then we'd stick with that one and get involved there and become part of the family there. Yeah.
Ooh, that's awesome, man. When you guys came to Hawaii, was it a big adjustment for you? You were in Puerto Rico, but yes, island life.
Man, I remember getting on the plane. And Sean and Zach were with me, and Kaylee and Rebecca came a day or two later, the way it worked out. And I just got off the plane. And I'd been to Hawaii before, and I love the water. I grew up around the water, my dad being in the Navy. And I just got off the plane, and it's like, wow, I'm here in Hawaii, someplace that I could see myself just living for a very long time. And it was just a good feeling to be here. We got a house on base at Hickam Air Force Base. Within the first couple of days we were here, we had pre-coordinated. And so we lived on base the first 3.5 years we were here. And then we moved over to Kaneohe. God was gracious enough to be able to get into a house where the interest rates are still good.
Yeah. Oh, they were good.
Yeah,
they were good.
They were really good.
Yeah. Thank you, Fauci.
And so, yeah, it's been, people say living the dream, in Hawaii. That's a vacation destination. People come here, save all their lives to come here for a week or two. And we've been living here for almost 6.5 years. And it's great, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you guys like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Some people come and it's a struggle for them because it's so small,
Right.
So I do see that. It's good for a season, and that's why when people there are people that maybe they come to the church, they want to get involved, or
right.
Or they say they want to be here, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
Inflation is hitting. I saw an article that inflation's hitting us harder than anybody else. Right. Our island, specifically Honolulu.
Yep.
And so it's tough living out here. It is nice. It is a beautiful place, but
yeah,
the economy ain't that great out here.
Yeah.
And then the island gets small, and all of a sudden the hikes and the beaches and those kind of things, to some people, it just gets old or not worth it, and so they dip out.
Right. And a lot of locals are leaving for the mainland too, because it's just
Vegas.
so expensive. Yeah, Vegas. Oakland, wherever, Pacific Northwest, wherever they can find. And that's, that's pretty sad. But yeah, I mean, luckily we're in a position to stay and we love it here, and we're planning on staying for a long time.
Yeah. One time I was in, just speaking about people moving, I was in Oakland for some family thing, and I was sitting outside the house, and one of my cousins had driven over from another city, and I was just sitting outside with him, and I was like, bro, why'd you guys move here to the mainland? And he was like, and we were in the hood, so I was just like, why'd you guys move out here? And he was like, better opportunities, bro.
Yeah.
And I went, not when you're living. This don't feel like better opportunities, bro. This. I feel unsafe right now.
Right? Well, those neighborhoods can be, sometimes they like a family too. You get to know your neighbors and you watch out for each other's houses.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, you just become family out there.
Yeah.
And you have opportunities, and opportunities are sometimes what you make of them. And so, yeah, even in those neighborhoods, people get tight with their neighbors and families, and make it work.
Yep, you have to.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to. What was the best place that you've lived since you moved all over the place?
I've been to 49 of the 50 states, and Hawaii is my favorite state.
Wait, where haven't you been?
North Dakota.
Oh, I've
got no real desire to go there. Sorry,
what's in North Dakota?
Sorry, North Dakota people. I'm sure the state's great. I just haven't made it there.
What's in there? What's in North Dakota?
Fargo.
What's that?
That's where the movie Fargo is based.
Never seen it.
It's a cult classic. Yeah, they made a TV series about it. Watch some of those. It's pretty good.
Oh wow! What's it about?
It's about these cops that are trying to track down. There's like murders, and there's like a briefcase full of who knows what that they're trying to figure out, and everybody's fighting. It's kind of like a Guy Ritchie thing.
Okay.
And, everybody's after this briefcase, and the cops are trying to figure out who done it. And,
oh, I gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's
Fargo.
interesting, and they all talk with the accent. Hey, North Dakota.
North Dakota. They're from North Dakota.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Wow, I didn't know that, dude. You got to go there. You just got to knock it off your list, man.
Yeah, man. I've come close. I mean,
just drive through.
I had family in South Dakota.
Just dip your toe in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of these
just
days.
to say. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. You've been everywhere. Okay, so Hawaii's your favorite state?
Yeah, Hawaii's my favorite state. And me and my wife really like Italy and Rome. I lived in Sicily. It's different than the mainland Italy, but I think the places in Italy are nicer than Sicily, but Sicily was great.
You live on base, or you just lived?
We lived in a town called Catania the first year we were there, and then we moved on base because there was like a wait for base housing. We live on base just because it was more convenient for my dad and working and us going to school on the base. But I love living off the base. We lived right down the street from the town center, and they had these awesome bakeries. They'd bake bread fresh every day, and you'd go down there and just buy fresh bread and gelato. I mean, it was just amazing in the food, the pastas, the pizzas.
Yeah, is the food better?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Yeah, man. The pastas and the pizzas are just, it's a different world over there.
Oh, I got to try.
Yeah.
See, but then I have to fly.
Yeah.
So I need a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need a reason to get out there.
Flying's not bad. It's not bad. The longer flights are a little haul, but
yeah,
it's fun.
What's the longest flight you've been on?
Maybe like 12, 14 hours.
Oh.
I went to Hawaiian Airlines has a simulator out in Brisbane, Australia that they use for the Boeing 717, their inter-island airplane. Mm-hmm. That's the plane I fly. And so when I did my initial training, I flew out to Brisbane, and that's like a 12-ish hour flight.
Yeah.
And then in the military, I've flown from like California down to Brazil, doing some air refuelings. A couple air refuelings.
Refueling in the air.
Yeah.
Man, is that the hardest thing to do as a pilot?
It's just like formation, like you do in pilot training. It can be difficult if there's a lot of turbulence, but normally, it's just like a video game. There's lights on the bottom of the airplane that you're lining up and trying to keep in a certain spot. It's pretty fun.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
I can't imagine being a pilot and just flying.
It's a cool job. You got an office with a window.
Yeah. Do you guys? What do you guys do when you guys are flying? Like, and you got a long flight? You guys just talk to each other, hang out.
Yeah, you just talk to each other. But inter-island.
Oh, okay. You're doing inter-island.
Yeah. They're only like 20, 30 minutes.
How many are you do in a day?
I like 6 or 7, sometimes less, sometimes more. We can do all the way up to 8, and all the way down to 1. So it just depends on what the company needs. Usually 6.
Do you know, like, do you fly to a certain island more than others, or?
Well, Honolulu is basically we do out and back. So we always come back to Honolulu. But sometimes we'll go like to Lihue, and then we'll go out to Kona, and then we'll come back to Honolulu, and we'll do like these little island hopper things.
Okay.
But mostly Honolulu is like the big hub that we always come back to.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it fun working for Hawaiian?
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. I like them. They're a laid back airline, kind of like family. The schedulers, dispatchers, they call you by your first name, and it's all like a family feel, laid back. Yeah.
How did the Alaska purchase? Did that affect anything or no?
Right now, no, it's not affecting anything. It's going to go business as normal for like a year and a half until the Department of Justice figures out if they're going to let it happen.
Oh, why wouldn't they let it happen? What's the deal?
The Biden administration is really against airline monopolies or any monopolies really, and the big 4 airlines, like Delta, United, Southwest, those guys, they've gotten so big. I mean, they have like 15,000 pilots, and Hawaiian only has like just over 1,000. So they're like behemoths in the industry. Alaska, I think, only has like 4,000 or 5,000 pilots. And so if we combined, we'd still be like a third of the size of these major airlines. So that's the reason they think the DOJ will let us merge. But they don't want monopolies. They think it's bad for the consumer. They think the airline prices, the tickets will go up, and they don't want the consumers to get hurt by that. So
I must say, this is not. Were you at Hawaii? You were at Hawaiian by 2019, you said?
Yeah, June of 2019.
So this is just from a consumer though. The only time I ever felt appreciated by an airline was during COVID.
Oh, really?
I was getting emails and it was like, please fly with us. $20 flight. We got you. Yeah, we would love to see you again. I was like, dude, a $20 flight. Let's go.
Yeah, come join the friendly skies.
Yeah, it's not that anymore though.
Yeah, the planes were like halfway full, man. They had a lot of room on them. People could spread out. You could go inter-island for like $20, like you're saying. It was great to go see. I mean, as long as the other islands were okay and didn't have the quarantines and stuff, it was a crazy time. But towards the end of it, when the loads were still light and the tickets were cheaper and stuff, going and traveling, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wish I traveled more during that time.
Yeah,
considering the prices,
exactly. I
wish I traveled more. That was. Yeah, I would get emails all the time. We miss you, Christian. Right. I was like, oh, they know my name now? Back. Yeah, I'm coming back. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Dude. And then I think that did take one trip. I think I went to Disneyland or something like that.
Nice.
But yeah, so Alaska Airlines purchasing Hawaiian. It's gonna make them bigger.
Yeah, it'll make them a little bit bigger, but the Department of Justice just turned down like another merger. But they had a lot of route overlap, and they didn't think that it would be good for the consumer. Us in Alaska, we hardly fly any of the same routes. And I think the biggest concern is that us combined will have like 40% of the Hawaii market.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I think that Alaska serves a unique area on the mainland, and Hawaiian serves a unique area on the mainland, the 49th and 50 states with their indigenous culture. And we're just unique airlines, even though we're small. And I think that we'll do a good job of taking care of the Alaska population, the Hawaiian population, and really open up that route structure. And it will be a good combination for the people of Hawaii and the people of Alaska.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like Alaska.
Yeah,
I like them. Yeah. And they got 2 interesting individuals on both their planes.
Yeah. Yep.
They got to do a combined one. They got to put Pualani and what's his name, Eskimo Man, whatever his name is on the other side.
All my Alaska friends call him Chester. I don't know if that's his real name.
Oh,
but that's
Chester?
What they call him. Yeah, Chester.
Wow, Chester, Pualani and Chester, man. We got to put them on the same plane.
Pualani with their little parka hood.
Is that a real person?
You mean Pualani?
Yeah.
I think it was based on a real person. I don't know if I don't think it's a real person.
Okay. That's not like a real photo.
Like based off someone. Yeah.
Okay, that's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick. Speaking of flights, you guys are flying to Manila this year?
Yeah, we're trying to get on board with this mission trip out to the Philippines.
Yeah, you looking forward to that?
Yeah. Rebecca and Kaylee and I are planning on going. I've still got to find out if I can get the time off from work, but I usually get the days off that I want. So summer a little more tight, but we'll see. We're looking to go out in June and head out there on this mission trip and help out, meet the people out there with the EFCP, and just get to know them and support them. And you
guys are gonna be a huge blessing to the team, man. Philippines is legit. I love it.
Yeah,
I like the people. I like I'm Filipino, so of course I gotta like the people.
Yeah,
but they are awesome. They're super fun.
Yeah,
they're fun. They're doing great work though. That's the crazy part is they're doing work in parts that of Manila that need it. Definitely, like you're gonna see the need, and you're gonna like the people out there. They work hard, dude. Those pastors work. They grind, dude. Yeah, like they're doing so much for the community, and I'm thankful that you guys are going to support the team. Yeah, because at first I thought it was gonna be Zach. it was looking that way.
Poor Zach.
It was just looking that way. Yeah, I was like, Zach, you got this, and then he had no team. But
yeah, man, we got a good little team going out.
You guys got a good crew. You guys about to do like a meal, little luau out there. Huh?
There you go.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, put on the hula skirt and
do that. They love that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So you guys are involved in that mission trip coming up, and then what made you get into the counseling thing? Like, was that you guys ever did that? You said your dad was into a counselor.
My dad was a counselor, a professional counselor, and he worked for a state program, and he still does it now in retirement as he trains people and he does stuff kind of on the side. But yeah, it's just, especially during COVID, a lot of people were hit hard. A lot of isolation, loneliness, and we all know social media doesn't do good for people. And when you're isolated and away from things and into social media, a lot of times people can get depressed or, just feel cruddy, and you need someone to talk to. And Harbor and Matt kind of realized this ahead of time and said, hey, we need to start training up some people. You can't just have, a whole slew of professional counselor cadre at every church, unfortunately, and so he wanted to train up some lay people in the congregation that would be able just to talk to people and hear their issues and be able to help them with those to a certain degree. So the training for that was like 1.5 years long, and it was pretty thorough, and taught you how to deal with all these different scenarios, anger, depression, anxiety, abuse, and you just go back to that. We've got like a workbook and stuff, and just a bunch of different resources to use in different scenarios, and so they equip you pretty well. And then they just start giving you cases, and people come to you, and you work with them, and it's just, like I was talking about before in the community group, where you learn to be with people and be a shoulder for them to cry on and lean on, and just help bear their burdens. And that's what you kind of do as a lay counselor. You're there for people and just trying to help them out, show them biblical truths, maybe that they just don't see on their own because they're in this funk, and just help them, get closer to God and, work towards that sanctification and get out of that funk and just be in a better place.
What's been the biggest kind of counseling needs that you've just observed just with people in general since COVID? Like, is it depression? Is it is it loneliness? Is that the big thing? Because one of the things that I've been seeing is that there is some loneliness. There is some of that, that more than I used to see. But a part of that is also there is a hesitancy getting involved or getting being around a lot of people as well. So I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, people feel, I don't know if it's just solely depression, but, people were isolated. They were doing school on Zoom. They didn't have, contact. They didn't have, physical touch, just seeing people. And they got kind of a little depressed or lonely. And then they saw social media, everybody just posts the best stuff about their life on that. And like, oh, man, I wish, I could do that or I could be like that. And so they felt not good enough, so that isolated them even more. They didn't want to go out, and people scared of the virus too, and so it just kind of caused people to kind of withdraw into themselves.
Did you see an effect on your kids during those years, because they were in school at the time?
Yeah. I saw changes in my youngest son and daughter. My oldest daughter had already graduated, luckily, and she got to have her graduation in the Aloha Stadium, and with all the leis and the signs, and that was the first experience I had with the Hawaiian high school graduation. It was just great. And then to see the very next year where they couldn't experience that, it was so sad to see that for the people in the following year that didn't get to experience to the same level the things that they had just experienced a year prior. But my younger son and youngest daughter, I could definitely see where Zach lost some motivation just doing the Zoom thing all the time. Because the teachers, they had all these people on the screen, and it was real easy for the kids to be watching Netflix on their phone while they're in class, and the motivation's going down, and the teacher's more lenient because everybody is, at home, and, trying to make sure everybody has internet and everybody has resources. And so they had a lot of distractions and other focuses, and they would be more lenient with the kids, with their school. And the study showed that, just the proficiency, went down during that time period of, and not just school-wise, but just, socially, not being around other people and getting those social cues and just hanging out and being friends away from the screens. And so that was hard on him and my youngest as well. More on my son than my daughter, but yeah, I could see that definitely at home.
Yeah, I imagine. I was talking to some preschool teachers the other day, or kindergarten teachers, and they were just talking about as the kids that were there during COVID, they didn't get some of that social formation that they should have gotten. So they were in second grade, third grade, just terrors, just they didn't know how to act, in a classroom setting and with other people. So yeah, that was a rough time. I know that there's people. I mean, there's people that went to college, right? Like they got into a great college, and the rest of their experience, most of it, half their freshman year, and then the next 2 years, pretty much online, like not in person. So you get into this excellent college, you don't really get to experience it, Yeah,
Shauna went to Biola near LA, Anaheim area. She went there the first semester, and then COVID hit, and she had come home for Christmas to be with family. And then she decided to take a gap semester and go to esthetician school. And then she was going to go back, but they were charging the in-person rates for online school, and it was expensive. We were like, no, not really. We shouldn't do that. And so she stayed home and did online stuff. Ended up graduating early because of that, but kind of missing out, just not being on the campus with friends and stuff. She got to experience that for a semester, but she graduated early, got a job and all that stuff. Ended up getting married and moving to the mainland, and so she grew up quick, but it kind of shortened her college experience because of that whole thing. Online stuff. Yeah,
COVID was a wild time, man. I don't know what was going on, but people lost their minds.
It wasn't fun.
It was not fun.
No, not at
Dude,
all.
Nothing was fun. But I tell you what was fun. The bar for youth group was lowered for a good 2 years. All we had to do was get them together and do nothing else. And it felt like this was the best thing ever.
Have some snacks, have some games.
Just snacks, games, social distancing, a little word. And the kids were like, this is the best experience of my week. And then 2 years later, they were like, you know what? There's a lot of other cool experiences out there. You guys got to do more than just snacks and games and a little session here. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that time. It was just nice to be able to gather. And I think that there's a lot of churches that shut down, a lot of churches that social distance or whatever. And whatever your conviction on it, I don't really care. It doesn't really concern me now. We're years removed. But I do know that for the churches that provided some space for people to get together, I do know that did a lot of good for a lot of people. There are a lot of there's a lot of talk about what's essential and what's not. And I think that I think that if clinics were important at the time, that churches also were essential. Social interaction was essential, and you could have done it in a responsible way.
Exactly.
But the stuff that was going on during COVID was ridiculous. I had people that I had to see that were passing away, you know, and it was like, okay, either I go up or their wife goes up. They wanted me to go pray with them. I'm like, then you won't be able to go up.
Right.
Or you'd go up, and then when they died, then it'd be like, all right, you know what? The family can come see them.
Yeah.
Everybody, like one at a time. I'm like, that's a crazy rule.
Yeah.
And I know that not everybody knew what was going on, but looking back at it, like, you know, we can look back at it and go, next time something like that happens, let's handle it just slightly differently.
Yeah,
you know?
they weren't, I mean, you know, give them benefit of the doubt.
Right.
A lot of the science was it out. But but they were doing like big funerals for like George Floyd and stuff like that. And then they wouldn't let more than one person go up to see their dying family.
Their dying family member is crazy. Come on.
Guys. Yeah. It was disappointing. But
or when they had when there were protests and people were saying COVID doesn't spread, didn't spread. What?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm either the most idiotic person. I can't comprehend how a little church event is going to spread COVID and everyone's going to die, but a big, massive gathering over there is not going to bother anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you're picking sides.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying, you know.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But hopefully we did learn something from that, and we won't go overboard, or at least we'll go overboard for a little while, and then figure it out.
Yeah, let's figure it out. Let's figure it out quickly, and let's not get on people that view things differently, right? Like we're all trying to figure this out. You know,
my son was playing football for Radford outside. They're at Radford, and in the stadium there, they were social distancing, people wearing masks outside. But they wouldn't let people who hadn't been vaccinated go outside to these games. And, kids younger than 12, they couldn't go see their big brother play football because they weren't vaccinated. And everybody knew that kids weren't as affected.
Right.
And it just made no sense. Like, why are you keeping these kids away from an outdoor arena to watch football with their families?
Or my favorite thing is make the tackle out on the field.
Right.
We're really close, roll up on people, spit on them on accident, do whatever you want to do. But when you get to the sideline, remember to put that mask back on. Now, that's a little interesting to me. That's a little interesting to me.
Yep.
The vaccine thing was wild, man.
It was.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, like, I was like, I'm not for, mandating that.
Yeah.
I'm not for mandating that.
Yeah. It was the same.
And they were like, hypocrite, you got vaccinated. I'm like, yeah, because I'm fat. I was like, you're a healthy young individual. You're fine. I was like, oh, I'm fat. Yeah. like they asked me why I got back. Like, I'm fat. Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do? And like, don't trip. Yeah. I'm just saying, but you're young and healthy, and you guys, kids. Yeah. I mean, when they started making the kids gay, that's when I was like, come on, man.
That was a little.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm glad we're past that. Yeah. I'm glad we're past that. Yeah. And I hope that we don't get there again.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's all wash our hands.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing it did. We had such a low flu season because everybody was washing their hands.
Everybody washed their hands. Don't rub your eyes.
Exactly.
Change your clothes before you jump in bed.
Yeah.
Just maybe spray yourself down before you get in the house. Do whatever you got to do after a social interaction.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm glad we're out of that.
I'm all good for hygiene.
Oh yeah. Me too. That was the best part. But yeah, it was a while. What a strange time. Mm-hmm. I feel like the country got crazier during that time. Like it got way more divided. It got way more crazy, hectic, and we're about to be in another.
People were retreating to their corners, and then they went to social media, and a lot of people, they unfriend the people that don't think like them, and so they get in the sounding board, and so that causes division. But I have hope that the middle part of the country, 10% on either side, maybe 15% during COVID, but the middle of the country, as long as they're out there talking to people, interacting with people that don't think like them, that, people will be moderate and be willing to listen to someone else's viewpoint is my hope. And I'm hoping it's just the radicalized,
Yeah, I hope so.
On the ends there that are doing the crazy stuff.
Yeah, I hope so. For you in Hawaii, did you, so one of the things that I realized when I went to Indiana for school, is I realized that just politically, I don't know if you call it politically, just how if you like everybody in Hawaii, and I think it's because we're not connected to the mainland. Like we see ourselves first as like, oh yeah, we're from Hawaii,
right?
And not immediately thinking like, of the country first. Like we just think of ourselves as from Hawaii.
Exactly.
Like I remember my professor telling me that's probably because you're from Hawaii. Like you see, because he made us do a poll.
Yeah.
You're like, do you identify quickly like mostly with your state first or the country? Everybody said the country. Everybody, no matter where they were from, and I was the only one that said Hawaii.
Right.
Me and this other Hawaii girl. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's the most geographically isolated place in the United States.
Yeah.
So I mean that makes sense. I mean it's its own culture, it's its own, people. So
yeah,
I can definitely see how that was.
Was that a big adjustment for you? Just the culture? Was it way different from? I mean, I know it's different, but was it way different from? Was it hard to adjust to like the way things are in Hawaii, or?
Not really. Whenever we moved somewhere, we lived in Puerto Rico. I went to school. Half the school was Puerto Ricans.
Just half?
Yeah, just half. We were we were on the base at a
okay.
school, so it was a little bit.
Dude, that's where Clancy is. I don't know if you know Clancy. The violin player from our church. Oh, he might have been gone when. Yeah. Oh yeah, right before the 1 year, he left for Puerto Rico.
Nice. But yeah, we lived in Germany. We lived off base in a small town. It was like half Americans, half Germans, and so we put our kids in the German school. We participated in their little cultural things that they did. It was really neat, the little different festivals that they had, and we loved participating in that. So when we came to Hawaii, it was kind of, the way we view it is we like to jump into the cultural aspects of the place we go to and get involved with the locals and see what they're doing and learn from them. We have no problem being a minority in Hawaii because we like mixing in with the population and just being, making friends and doing family with whoever we find.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And that's the thing too. Like, I think people, one of the things that, like, I remember when I had lunch with John Piper and just early on when I first came to Harbor, he was doing a conference. And so I got to have lunch with him and he was asking me about, because he had just read about Hawaii. He was just reading about like what happened with the overthrow and all these things. And he had asked me like, what do you think the solution is? And I was like, well, I think that we already have a solution, right? Like, and that's like the solution is in the church. Right. Like when there's forgiveness and grace and people from different walks of life that just come and they're united over one thing in their family, Yeah. And I'm like, I think the gospel is the solution to whatever people feel, right? However wrong they feel, what happened in the past. Like you have to forgive. And I think in the church, like you and I, like we're connected like by something more than blood, we're connected by our faith in Jesus, which makes you more of a brother to me than an unbeliever that I'm close with. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think that we have the answer as a church,
Yeah. And I mean, it was a different world, 100 years ago. Not justifying it, of course, by any means, but, countries expanded. They took, territory. I mean, Africa was mostly occupied,
Well, why is everybody called Hawaiians? Oh, too much heat. Was it not a person who conquered other islands?
Right, yeah.
From perhaps an island named Hawaii? Right. I don't know. That's just me, though. Yeah. I don't know.
But, I mean, people,
But yeah, it was a different world.
It's it's near history. I mean, it's close. So people still have those feelings. They have, they see their culture being diminished and disappearing, and it hits them hard. And I can totally understand that. The local population it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And people getting forced off the island, and it's just it's criminal. I mean, the way everything happened, but and now, I mean, as much as it hurts, I mean, you've got to find that solution. You've got to say, hey, what am I going to do? How am I going to make things better? And a lot of times, the church, people sometimes feel hurt by the church, and maybe the church was part of that initially. But you gotta figure that a lot of people that go to church aren't necessarily Christians, and even a lot of the Christians don't necessarily act like Christians all the time. And so, if you look to the Bible, the gospel, and you see Jesus and the way he loved people from different cultures, like the Samaritans that the Jews didn't get along with. And the way he acted towards them and showed them kindness and compassion and love and inclusion, that is the solution. You can't look at Christians that, do you wrong and say, hey, man, these guys are trash. You got to look to the person they're looking to, which is Jesus, who set the example, and say, hey, if Christians acted more like Jesus, then it would be easier to live with what had happened, because people would be taking care of each other. They'd be sharing their resources. I mean, in the Bible, people were selling their houses to take care of their neighbors. They were selling stuff, their possessions, to help people. And I think a lot of that did happen during COVID. I mean, there were a lot of people that were, I know Harbor gave away a lot of food, and people in the church were supporting that monetarily, and people were going out in person, despite the virus, and they were doing stuff. They were out there in the community, dishing out meals to people who are houseless, or and just doing what it took to get out there and make sure that people were taken care of. And that's what Christianity is really about. And if people can find a good Bible-believing church that really looks to Jesus as the example, I think you're right, that would be a good solution, because people really support each other in the situation. And obviously, no church is going to be perfect, and you're going to have those people that could care less about you. But I mean, we're all imperfect, and that's why Jesus came to save us in the first place. So yeah, we got to live and learn and become more like him. Yeah.
See, that's awesome, man. I wasn't even like when you think about exactly what you're saying, like, I think that's a call to the church as well. Like, man, we got to be leading the way in grace and forgiveness and welcoming and understanding and patience and long suffering. And also, not just talking about meeting needs, and not just talking about loving people, but actually putting that to action.
Yeah.
And I guess COVID did give the church opportunity to do that, but even now we should be thinking of ways that we can love people and show them that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers only go so far. It's when you're actually standing outside someone's tent and saying, hey man, I've got this food for you. That really means something, in a material need and practical ways. That's what people understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you guys involved in a lot of that kind of work prior to coming to Harbor?
Well, since we've been at Harbor so long, it was kind of all meshed together. Yeah. We
because you guys even did like outreach to women victims of sex trafficking as well, right?
My wife worked at SATC, the Sexual Abuse Treatment Center, and she worked at Kapiolani Women and Children's Center, and she's always been, with that heart of just reaching out to people who are victimized and helping them out. And that's really where our heart came from in joining the counseling program. And we have a heart for marriages. The divorce rate's just so bad right now, and COVID didn't make it any better. But just, people, they get isolated, and all they know is, in the most basic form, survival is take care of yourself. And people, maybe selfish is the word for it, maybe it's not, but, you want to take care of yourself and then take care of your family. But in Christianity, you're always looking outside yourself and treating other people the way you want to be treated, and taking care of people like you take care of yourself is the goal. And so just having that outreach, even when it wasn't with the church, we would go out. My wife is always thinking of stuff to do. Like my daughter was going to school at Radford, and they were selling all this, Kula pig, and so we just bought a bunch of it, and we went to Costco, bought these little, plastic containers, and we put it in the food. And Thanksgiving, we went out and just handed it out to whoever, would take it, people on the streets or whoever wanted it. And Rebecca just has that heart, if it's with the church or not, just going out.
See, that's awesome. To me, that is amazing.
My work is calling me.
Oh, they're calling? Go ahead, answer. You can pick it up.
I'll pick it up real quick. Hello? Yeah, it's me. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. All right, you too. Bye. All right. I don't have to go in. So
all right.
I'm good.
I was like, yo, we're getting to the good. It's good.
All right. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So that to me, that is the best thing. So like for our church, we're small, right?
Yeah.
And one of the big things is our hope is that as we as we grow and as we're able to, that we would be able to do more like together as a church, right? But the thing is, doing big events like that, doing big things like that is not absolutely necessary if we have everyone in the church loving their neighbor as themselves on their own, you know, taking care of the poor among you, you know, meeting the needs of your neighbors and the people around you. And so the fact that you guys live that way and do that on your own without any prompting from the church, to me, is huge.
And it doesn't take a lot, really. I mean, I can think of one instance during COVID, another family that went to Harbor Town when we were going there, they had got COVID. And so me and my wife had already had COVID. We had, like, you know, some natural immunity and, you know, whatever, vaccinations and stuff. And so we went to L&L and got some food, and we took it to them. And just the fact, they weren't in our community group or anything, just the fact that we would bring them food when they're sick and just have a meal with them when they're sick like that, when everybody else is, you know, scared to death of the virus, it really meant a lot. And it just didn't take much, man. You just, L&L is, you know, it's not that much. You just go buy a zip pack and or whatever.
Well, zip pack's a little expensive now.
No
$17. Stop that.
Woo.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a little bit of food, or
L&L is a little reasonable.
Go to Costco or whatever, and just make some food and go over to your neighbor's house and just support them and be with them and talk and just have a meal and just be there and experience life together. And it doesn't take much, and it just means a lot to people in a time where people are being isolated and feeling lonely. And
when Lee got COVID, I bought him some food, and I left it on, like, I didn't even walk in the driveway. Like, I just left it like, bro, it's on this rock wall. I'm out of here, bro. I was one of those. Yeah, he was like, bro, where is it? I was like, on the rock wall. Just walk out to the road. It's right there.
It's like an Easter egg. Find the dinner.
I'm sorry. That's how I was. But yeah, I think that those little things go a long way. Like, the sad thing about our world is that people don't love each other like they should, right? Like the fact that, right, if we're made in the image of God and we look at Jesus and we see the way he lived, that's not something that should be extraordinary. That's how people are called to live. Like what Jesus lived, it's only radical because we're not living like that.
Exactly.
And so Jesus was out there meeting needs. He was out there caring for people and loving people. So the world isn't like that, and it should be, and that's sad.
Right.
But it also gives the church an opportunity. The bar is so low.
Yeah.
People feel loved and appreciated by small things, right? Letters. They feel loved and cared for by, you know, if they're sick, just getting them something like a coffee or something like that. And so I feel like for my wife and I, we've seen the most we've seen people just feel blessed just by little things. Like if they're sick, hey, call and check on them, get food if we can. You know what I mean? Like when things don't. If it ain't right for you and you're gonna put your family in a hole, don't do it. But if you're in a position where you have a little bit to spare and you can give, like that goes a long way for the church because it's not normal in the world. It's not a normal thing that people are generous and they're gracious, you know.
Right.
And so, yeah, like we've experienced the same thing where just doing little things like that, it really causes people to feel appreciated and loved, you know.
Even the youth programs that you were working with at Harbor Town, like VBS or the youth group that you were leading, people being able to drop their kids off at a safe space so that they can interact and, you know, the parents have some time off to do the things they need to do. That's a huge burden off them. And I know my kids loved to go to the youth group while you were leading it over there at Harbor Town. So that was a huge ministry that could reach people for sure. Yeah,
I love youth ministry. When I started youth ministry, I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, that's the last thing I want to do is like go spend a Friday night or a Wednesday night with a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And but I actually grew to love it because of that. One, it was serving the needs of families.
Yeah.
And I really loved, like, one of the best things that I think Zach and I used to talk about it is when a parent can drop off their kids and then they can go have dinner as a couple. You know, like they drop off their kids. We're gonna get in the Word. Like, who can be against that? Like, there's a lot of people against all kinds of stuff, but who can be against a bunch of kids getting together to study the Word and having a good time? You know, and so we would do that, and we actually appreciated parents that could drop their kids off, and we'd see them walk over to go get dinner. Like, because if you're parents with kids, like you don't get that time all the time, and so you should, You know, that's one of the ways that we as a church serve people. And so Zach and I always saw it as that, like that became date night for some parents. Yeah. You know, they get 2 hours, they can go focus. And like you said, we care not just about the kid and that being, well, we care about the families. We care about the marriages in our church, you know?
Yeah. Rebecca and I took advantage of that. We'd go find a restaurant and have a date night for sure.
Now you guys can go have a date night whenever you want.
Yeah. The kids are all going now.
That must be nice.
Yep.
I can't wait.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. And so you guys are kind of living out your faith, man, in such a real way. And then you said earlier you care about marriage a lot. Like what made you start caring about, you know, other people doing well in their marriage? Like,
well, we've seen so many friends that have ended up in divorce and how it just ravages their family and their kids. And my wife, you know, her mom and dad were divorced.
That's right.
And so anytime that we can speak, and people don't realize that when you're a Christian or when you're being a light for other people, it doesn't take, like, you don't have to like witness and talk about all this Bible stuff all the time to be a light and to show people love. You could just talk to them about things that are important to them and things they're going through, and you could share your experiences and your faith and how it gets you through. But it's not like a big thing that you're gonna have to, like, you know, go through sermons with people and, you know, they're gonna have to listen to that and make a decision. It's not like that. You just live life with people, just have these conversations. And so if people are having trouble, you know, in their marriages, they just need to talk. They need someone to talk to. They might need some insight at some point. Maybe not. Maybe they just need to get something off their chest. But once they know that you're someone that can be trusted and that will listen to them, then eventually you'll have that rapport and they'll be willing to open up and maybe listen to some input that you have that would maybe help them out in their situation. And it's all about building those relationships and just being a person that's, you know, likable and that's a friend and that they can count on and it's there when they need them and reliable. And then you just have opportunities to speak in people's lives because you have taken the time to build that relationship and be a good friend to someone.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the thing with marriage is like, it does. When a marriage breaks down, it leaves a lot of damage. You know, it leaves a lot of damage, and not that it can't be redeemed, but it's just it's hard on not just the couple. It's hard on the kids and all that. But I think one of the things that helps, that should help, is that people need to understand. I guess for me, that marriage is difficult. Yeah. Like it's difficult. It's hard when two sinners come together. Yeah. And that should be normalized. You know what I mean? Like it should be normalized. Just like, it's funny because it's like I was talking to one guy. So there's this thing with, so the kids that I used to be in youth group now, they're getting married. Right. They're now getting, that's how old I'm at. They're getting married. They're having kids. But before that, they were just getting into the job force. And I remember talking to some of them and they're like, adulting is hard.
Yep.
And I was like, well, somebody should have told you. You know that feeling that you get where you're like, am I doing this again? That's normal. Like that's normal. Like they felt like something must be wrong. I must need another job. This is not my passion.
Right.
I was like, no, the idea that you're waking up and you're going to work at the same time and you're going to come home at the same time and you're going to collect that check. Yeah, man. That's called normal life for now, until you can do something else, you know, but you do what you got to do. That's part of it. Like somebody should have told you that not all work is just like, you do it. It's like, I'm just fully satisfied and passionate about what I'm doing. Like sometimes you got to go work and it's hard. In the same way, marriage is hard sometimes. And just cause you're struggling, just cause you're in a season where you're like, man, we're just kind of like biting at each other or just irritated. Like everything they're doing is irritating. Like, let me just tell you, that's normal. Get out of it. Here's how to get out of it. But that's normal. Like, don't think that all of a sudden, maybe this isn't the one. Right. Maybe there's something else. You know, like, no, that's who you're married to.
Yeah. God wants me to be happy with somebody else. No, He wants you to stick with what you committed to and be more selfless and be more like Him and love who you're with.
Yeah. So you got a daughter that's married.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got kids that are probably
committed relationships.
And so what is your advice to them? Like as you're raising your kids and they're because they're on the younger end just in general for society right now in America. In serious relationships, a lot of times people are holding off on marriage and stuff till way later now.
Right. Yeah.
And so, what is your advice to them as they're going into their marriages and relationships?
Yeah, and I don't think that's the wrong thing either. People who are waiting longer to start a family and get married, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just when you try to play house before you get married and try to live like you're married before you're married. I mean, studies have shown that a lot of those relationships end up turning south because there's just not that commitment there. It's like, okay, at any moment I can just drop you when I'm tired with you, when I'm done with you, you're not making me happy anymore. And people get into that habit pattern and that mindset that, hey, if I'm done with you and you're not making me happy anymore, then I can just drop you and that's okay. You know, no fault divorce. It's all good. And there's just not that level of commitment that you want to see that will last a lifetime.
Yep.
And that's what you want to build up in the youth today, is that level of commitment and just dedication to someone else. Loving someone more than yourself is hard because we're taught to take care of ourselves and, you know, me, and I want to get all this stuff from me, and to put someone else above you. It's kind of easy when you're dating and it's new, but then once you put that ring on the finger or whatever, and a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 goes by, and now they get doing stuff that gets on your nerves, and they know how to push your buttons. And then if it's all about, who's going to win the argument, then it just goes really downhill from there. So we like to try to teach people how to fight fair and not like go for the jugular. If you're going to have an argument, and everybody argues, you want to know that no matter who's right, and you can still be right and do it the wrong way, that there's going to be a tomorrow past this, that you're going to, love each other and continue on. So first of all, there's no reason to like rush into a relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
Take it slow or get into your career or whatever I mean, it's not like there's a right and wrong answer when it comes to this sort of stuff, how you're going to live your life. But, get settled, do school if you're going to do school, do a trade if you're going to do a trade, get into it. If you find someone that you love and that you can see living your life with, then it's okay, get married in the midst of that, or wait and get yourself in a spot that you think is good, that you're independent, and then look for that. There's no real right or wrong way to do it, but you do have to understand that marriage is hard. I mean, people, Paul said, it's better not to get married. It's easier.
They pierce themselves with many pangs, he said.
Easier. It's definitely easier. I mean, it doesn't feel easy when you're single sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people can do it. Some people it's hard. You get lonely and you want that. You see your friends in the dating scene and they've got someone, to be with.
The funny thing, so I heard one of the best ways I've heard it said is one pastor was talking about it, and he said, like Paul's solution to who should get married or to loneliness or anything like that. He said, if you burn with passions, then get married, right? If you don't burn with passions, then you should be like him, like meaning he doesn't have to worry about earthly things. He says he can focus on just the work the Lord has him. But one of the things he talks about, he's like, to discern whether you have the gift of celibacy or not, right? And if you don't have the gift of celibacy, you should go get married. He says, the person without the gift of, for the person with the gift of celibacy, marriage would be a distraction for someone like Paul.
Yeah.
Like Paul was not concerned with fulfilling a woman's needs or anything like that, or his own needs in that way. The main thing for Paul was, where can I preach the gospel? Like, can I go here and there? And if you don't have a wife and you don't have kids, you don't have a family, you can go make decisions quickly. If you don't have a husband, you can go make decisions quickly and decisively and do your thing.
Exactly.
So for Paul, a marriage relationship would have been a distraction to his mission.
Right.
And then he says, for someone without the gift of celibacy, not being married would be the distraction.
Right.
Meaning you see a lot of people, right? They don't have the gift of celibacy. They are doing great things. They're doing great work. Their life is just as meaningful as someone else's life who doesn't have kids, just as meaningful. But they're always reminded of and thinking about and talking about, man, I want to be with someone.
Yeah.
Right. And so he says it that way, that for someone without the gift of celibacy, not having a relationship would be a distraction to you. And so you'd have to navigate that that period. But assuming that there is someone out there that you get married, yeah, just understand like what you're saying is it's going to be hard, and it's going to be a lot of you dying to yourself.
Yeah, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And I've counseled people before who weren't married and wanted to be married, and that's tough. I mean, they want a family, they're getting older, and just being lonely, and that's a hard place to be in. And like you said, it is a distraction from missions when it's that. And so it's a good thing to be married. You know, society needs it to exist and survive. But it's a good thing to be married. It's a good thing to seek out. But don't try to do it your own way.
Yes.
It's God's timing, and it'll happen when it's meant to happen. If you try to rush it or do it your own way, or try to, you know, like.
And by your own way, you mean like going about it in a way that God doesn't approve. Maybe picking low-hanging fruit. Yeah. To pick low-hanging fruit meaning like, he's all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know,
if you just go to the bar with some friends one weekend and you find somebody who's willing to take
I just gotta get married.
All right, let's get married.
Yeah. Without thinking through it, without navigating it, without seeking wise counsel. Right. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. Like, it's all right to check. It's all right to look into the person. It's all right to talk to their circle and meet and go slowly and do all that. At the same time, if you know and things check out, there's nothing wrong with getting married sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, if God tells you you're supposed to be married, and that's a good thing in His timing. I mean, Abraham, he tried to do it his own way. You know, he's like, God said, you're going to have a nation, you're going to have a son. And he's like, I'm going to do it my own way. And that caused so much war and division.
Oh, yeah. To this day.
To this day. Yeah, we're seeing it on the news.
To this day. Abraham, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you got to do it the right way.
You got to do it the right way.
It's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
Do it the right way.
100%, man. Yeah, that's good. I don't know. For me, my kids being married is so far off. Yeah. At the same time, I'm like, whoo, there's a lot of things I wasn't prepared for and ready for, and conversations I wish I had. That, I think it's important to prepare people for that. Yeah. You know, it's very important. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, especially in today's age where marriage is kind of like, you see like there's online, there's a lot of people talking about kind of the horrors of marriage from a man's perspective and why it's terrible.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So there's a lot. It's a whole red pill community talking about marriage is like skewed against the man, and it's not worth it for them. And so they shouldn't get married. They should do whatever they want. And it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Well, people don't realize that. I mean, people look at marriage like, oh, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to have this ceremony. It's going to be great. And they drop all this money on it. But if you look back,
that's not marriage. That's a wedding.
Right. That's a wedding. If you look back to the most basic form with Adam and Eve, marriage is, you know, the man and the woman coming together and being together and having not necessarily having kids, but just creating that family unit. And the way the Bible puts it as a cord of three strands, you know, God, the husband and the wife together, you know, living life out together in love and sharing that love with other people. That's the building block of society. And that's what marriage is that unity. It's not the ceremony or you know, it's not always going to feel great. You know, there's going to be times where it's hard and you're fighting and things are going wrong and the financials look crappy and you don't get to do what you want to do. You can't go play golf every weekend. You know, there's needs that both of you have, and you know, the husband doesn't just get to take off every week and go play golf or go scuba diving or whatever and leave the kids with the mom. You know, it's a family. You know, the dad's responsible too. My wife loves it when husbands say, oh, I got to stay home and babysit my kids tonight. It's like, you're not babysitting your kids. Those are your kids.
I think she told me that once.
Right. Those are your kids. They're your responsibility.
I was like, yeah, I got to babysit these kids. Yeah. She was like, those are your kids.
Mommy needs some me time too. Yeah. So, yeah, there's times where it's going to be hard and you're going to have to put your nose to the grinding stone and get things done. And it's not going to be happy time. I mean, but you look back on those times with fondness, the times you got to spend with the kids and raising them and playing with them and teaching them and even the hard times, you know, if you have kids that are difficult or whatever, you end up looking back on that time, and it's really meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. We have this document that we used to send out to parents just to like help them see how important it was the time they had with their kids. I think by third grade, yeah, after third grade, half your time with them is gone.
Wow.
Before they're 18.
Jeez.
Right. And so that's quick.
Yeah.
You know, that's quick. Like by the time they're in third grade, they just started school, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, you have half the amount of weeks with them left. You know, and so that's not a lot of time.
That's crazy.
It's not a lot of time. Yeah.
Put it in that perspective.
Yeah. That's not a lot of time that you get with them. And so you got them for this short period of time. And they're kind of like, kids are kind of like, well, I was reading in another book, but this morning, because we're preaching on parenting this week. Kids are like that concrete, you know, like they're like, you got to mold it while it's wet. Cause once it's set, it's set, you know, and then you have to leave it up to the Lord, you know, like you have them for a certain amount of time and you pour into them. You have to see your job as a parent as pouring into them, training them for, you know, the life they have ahead. And you should train them to be independent, to be, you know, to be able to take care of themselves. And because you have to let them go and let them grow. But that time that you have all that influence, right? As they gain more independence, that concrete is starting to set.
Yeah.
Right. And they have to, but you've done your work up to that point. And so, yeah,
they've got to figure that out for themselves. I mean, and that's a good reason not to just teach kids. A lot of people teach their kids whatever religion they grew up with. But that's sometimes not good enough. You need to teach your kids why you believe what you believe.
You mean not just give them, not just do a data dump.
Right, yeah. And say, you know, just do it the way I do it just because, you know, we're your parents and that's the way you should
Because I told you so.
Yeah, that's not a foundation for any belief system. You've got to, one, live it out like you're preaching it, which will, you know, really solidify it in their hearts. But they've got to understand on a mental level why they believe the way they believe, and does it make sense? You know, because when they get out in the world and someone says, well, you know, that doesn't make any sense because of this, and they'll go, well, you're kind of right, it doesn't make any sense, and they won't have any basis of why they believe what they believe, and then they'll just be swayed by whatever and just fall into whatever belief system that they find or their friends, you know, say makes sense to them. When I was in college, I was taking a philosophy class, and it was just funny. It was laughable to see the instructor just take my classmates to one corner of a belief system, and they would just be swayed so easily. And they say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then he'd just blow that out of the water and take them in a totally different direction. And they're like, oh, man. And they're like, oh, yeah, but what you're saying now really makes sense. And then he'd just blow that out of the water. And they just had no foundation of what they believed and who they were as a person, or what they believed, if they believed in God or what they believed in. They had no reason for it. And I was sitting there and I was firm in what I was saying, and people would look at me strange, like, how can you believe that? But whenever he would go in the different directions, I was staying solid and true to what I believed because I knew why I believed what I believed. And college is a big time of figuring that out as a kid. But to see it firsthand, how people are just, if you don't know what you believe, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
To some level, you've really got to understand mentally. I mean, why do I believe this? You know, does it make sense? It's not just a feeling. It's got to make sense to you. You got to be able to understand why and the hows. Otherwise, it's, you know, when you share it with people, and they have questions and you can't answer them. I mean, not to say that you shouldn't share it because you don't understand, but hey, get in the Word and get that understanding.
Right.
It's, you know, don't be afraid of the Word and going to church and doing Bible studies and community groups and getting that knowledge base. But God can use you no matter what stage you're at.
Yeah.
But the questions will come and they have answers. And so.
Yeah, so for me, when I was in college, same way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my friends actually ended up not believing.
Yeah.
They were Christians and they ended up not believing after Philosophy 101. It's crazy. Yeah. But one of the things I think that helped me is kind of what you're saying is before I got to college, it's not like my dad knew every argument for the existence of God or anything. It's just that he wasn't really afraid to for me to ask questions, for me to be like, wait, why do we believe that? Or he wasn't afraid of those questions. And I remember growing up, and we went to all kinds of different, we went to a few churches in my lifetime, but whenever there was a sermon, like my dad would talk to me about it, and he would not always agree with everything the pastor's saying, you know, but he'd be like, you know, let's think about that. Is it true that, you know, does that really say that in the word, right. You know? And so I think that what that did for me was not made me look at just what somebody's saying on a Sunday as like, that's the law. That we just believe it just because I was able to ask questions. And so, and I think that like when I look at the church as well, like, you know, now that I'm a pastor and I tell, you know, fathers and the parents and stuff, like, dude, you guys are the primary disciplers of your kids, right? Like you're saying, you should be in the word. You should want to get to know the word, you know, like you don't have to preach on Sunday, but you should look it up in the word yourself. You know, we're opening up the word on Sunday so you can look, and I want your kids to be able to ask you the questions. Exactly. You know, you might not have to know you might not know all the answers, but work hard to find out, ask questions, you know, like, and allow your kids to ask those questions too. Right. Like, don't just say why. Don't just say like, just because we said so. Exactly. Because the Bible does give us reasons, you know, like God does give us reasons for believing in him. He does, you know, there are reasons that we believe in God. And so I think that like you have to be able to ask those questions. So a solid Christian home isn't a home where we don't allow our kids to question things. They need to be able to ask questions, and they need to have answers to those questions, you know? Yeah.
If you're in a religion that it's taboo to ask questions about the religion, then you're in the wrong religion. Because
you're in a cult. That's called a cult, people.
Right. It's like, or maybe you're talking to someone who just doesn't know the foundations of what they believe. But yeah, I mean, question your faith isn't something you should shun or stray away from. I mean, that's foundational to building your foundation, your belief system, the whys and the hows. I mean, you can't understand unless you're asking the questions and getting more knowledge. So to ask those questions is completely acceptable, and it's okay. It should be normalized.
Yeah, for sure. Did your kids growing up, they got a lot of questions, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. Even now.
Yeah.
Even now, you know, my daughter, my two older kids graduated from Radford public school, and our kids they've done private school, they've done public school, they've done German school, they've done homeschooling, the whole gamut, you know, all these different types of schooling. But my oldest daughter now goes to a private school, a Baptist school. And she'll come home and she'll ask me, because I grew up in a Baptist church when I was younger, but I've attended more non-denominational, even though I went to a bunch of different denominational churches just to get, you know, that gamut. That experience.
We're just Baptist with cooler music.
There you go. And so she hears these things, and she's like, I'm not used to this. Is this really what it is? And then we can go down to, you know, talk about the theology and talk about the reasons why and what some people believe and what other people believe. And, you know, nobody has it all figured out. You know, there's always questions, and we understand the things we understand sometimes because the Holy Spirit lets us understand. And the church as a whole, you know, they agree on a lot of theology, but sometimes they can get it wrong in some cases. And I've learned going to school for theology is that you really get to know, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And so if you can have a conversation with someone and not be trying to convince them to come over to your side, but you can have an open mind, and you can still be firm in your faith, but you can still acknowledge that there are some areas in your faith or your belief system that can be incorrect, and you can be open to understanding why they're incorrect. I mean, nobody has a perfect understanding of the Bible. So God used imperfect people and weak people to make his ministry happen and to build his church. And he can use us, and we can be imperfect, and God can still use us, and he can still teach us. He can teach us from someone who's not a Christian. He can teach us lessons that we need to learn.
He spoke through a donkey.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
He did.
You can speak through anyone and teach you a lesson, teach us what we need to learn. So for us to feel Like we have it all together and we know what we're talking about and we need to convince people over to our belief system. They have to believe exactly like we do. I think that that's where a lot of people shut down the questions because they don't want you to question what they believe, because what they believe is the gospel truth. And I think that that's taking it over the edge. That's too far. You've got to be willing to learn. You've got to be, while still being firm in your faith, you've got to be open to understanding things that you haven't understood yet. There's things you don't know. There's ways that your understanding is incorrect, and you can still learn. And people appreciate that when you're in a conversation with someone. If you go to someone's church that's not the same religion as you, and you start attacking their belief system and say, you should believe like I believe because of this, this, and this, and they don't agree with you, now you're just butting heads and you're not really accomplishing anything. But if you build a relationship with someone who's a different belief system as you, and you get to know them, and you're not just getting to know them so that you can convert them, you're getting to know them as a person because they're a person that God's brought into your life for a season to get to know, to have a relationship with, and to kind of understand what they believe and what they're going through. God can use you in that, and people appreciate that you're not just there. They're not just a number to be converted by you, but you're actually a person that's meaningful in your life and that you care about them, and they're more open to like talking to you about why they believe what they believe. And once you have that relationship and that friendship, there's more trust, and you can actually talk about the tenets of faith at a deeper level, a more theological level, and you can understand, why they believe what they believe. They can understand why you believe what they believe. And if there's a better way to believe, then one or both of you can make adjustments to the way you believe to adjust to that. And that really means a lot to people, that if you're willing to hear them out and not just try to talk over them and get your point across.
Shout them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Exactly. That's one of the important things. And I think that, especially for Christians, like the reason we can be gracious and the reason that we need to be gracious in our conversations with people and understanding as well. One, Jesus was a friend of sinners.
Right.
Two, the golden rule, right? That's one of them. Not in any particular order, but three, the other thing is that salvation is all of God, right? Yeah. Like it's a work that God does in the hearts of people. And so, I know you might think that you somehow came to the logical conclusion that God exists, but what Scripture says is that was, God had to open your eyes to that. And so if you can't make that work happen, then but you have tools at your disposal, which is presenting the gospel clearly, meeting their needs practically, and praying for them, right? Praying that God would move, because that's the thing that needs to happen. If they don't see, and so you need to show them the Lord, show them the good news of the gospel, And I think that is like the best method of evangelism, is loving people and being friends. Like what Jesus is, a friend of sinners. Like, be a friend. Yeah. Like, is a friend just trying to convince you of something? Like, that's the only reason that I'm of value to you. That's
not a real friend.
Yep. Yeah, you're not a real friend. Like, I love Kirby's vacuum salesman, but they're not my real friends.
They just want to sell me vacuums. yeah. They want that commission.
Yeah. Just like Hawaiian Airlines, but they're not. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. But
yeah, me and Becca, we did a program called Evangelism Explosion once, and we'd go to people's doors and we'd go to the mall and we'd talk to people like cold turkey and just talk to them about God. And God used that in some areas, but if you get down to the basics, God is really going to use you in relationships with people, living life out with them, supporting them, and being a friend to them, and meeting their needs practically, like you said, in that list. Usually the practical applications are what's going to reach people first, because in this world where people isolate and do their own thing and being taking care of me, for someone to take care of someone else is unusual. And that's what's really going to open up someone's eyes, like something different here. This isn't normal.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus did. He went and met people's practical needs. He healed people. He fed people. He, forgave their sins and took spiritual burdens off of them. But it practically, he was meeting those needs And once those needs were met, then they were open to hearing what he had to say and believing in who he said he was. And I think that's an important first step. Not all the time. I'm not saying you can't, go up to someone cold turkey
preach the gospel.
and someone's gonna, either hear it or not. But
it's both and.
Yeah, both and.
It's both and. And a lot of times it's easier,
right,
to just preach to someone. I say that as a pastor. I love preaching, but what's harder is, man, I'm gonna bring a pie over and like showing that love, or eating dinner together and having conversations for years. Sometimes. And I think that just church history in general, right? You read about church history and you read about the explosion of the church in the first, second century, and it was weird that Christians were as generous as they were at the time. Yeah. They would fast so that they could feed their neighbor. Yeah. They would give their clothes so that their neighbor wouldn't go cold, right? They were doing a lot of radical things. Mm-hmm. And I'm even like I think about that. I'm like, man, yeah, that is the way the church spread, Exactly. And so in churches that are more theological, like that really emphasize the truth of the gospel and the word of God, which is, I think all churches should be that.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of times it's easy to do that at the expense of, and I'm just even thinking about, just how I'm living. Like, it's easy to do that at the expense of the practical applications of those things,
Yep.
So yeah, that's really good. I need you to not do that again so I can just live without thinking about that, so I can go on with my life. But yeah, no, it's true, man. Yeah, and I think that we need to disciple people in that, right? Like,
yeah, that's the hard part, because it takes work to disciple. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you go and you're witnessing to people, and there's a revival, whatever, you go to the mall and meet someone, and they say they accept Christ, and then you don't see them ever again. I mean, you haven't done any of the work. I mean, discipleship is the part that people understand the hows and the whys and how to live, and the things in the Bible are there for our benefit, and people don't understand that. A lot of times they could fall, like the parable of the sower, they can fall away, they can hear the good news and fall away from it because they don't get that anymore. The discipleship is the most important part, where you go in and you live life with people, you teach them the lessons, you show them in the Word, this is what God says, and this is why He says it, this is why it's better. This is why your life will be maybe not easier, but it'll work out to your benefit if you follow these guidelines, because they're there for a reason. They're not there to hurt you. They're there to prosper you. And so, relationship advice that you find on the Bible. The answer to life's questions are in the Bible. Yeah. And
I love that you just said that. Like, the commands of God are not there, like, to make you depressed or to make you sad. Like, they're there to bless you. They're there. God's not an evil God. I think a lot of times we look at the things that God commands and like, He's doing that because He just doesn't want us to have any fun. Like, no, being like, if Jesus commands us to live generously, it's because that's for our good. If Jesus commands us to meet the needs of our neighbor, the people around us, right? Like, to what does Jesus say? Like, as you've done to the least of these, you've done to me, right? The reason, if you give somebody a glass of water who's thirsty, Jesus isn't saying that because He doesn't want you to have a glass of water,
right?
He's saying that because He loves you, and He knows that, man, there's going to be so much more joy for you on the other end of that, And I think a lot of times, like, I guess when we talk about it, if we grew up in a house, if we're in a house that's law heavy, where it's just the rules because we said so, and we forget to tell them that, no, the commands of God are so good. Yeah. And even as parents, right, we're doing the parenting sermon this week, but we're telling you this because we love you.
Yeah.
Do the kids know that? Right. In the same way, do you know that about your father? Do you know that God doesn't command you to do things because He just wants to kill your joy? He wants you to just sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, no, the sacrifice is good, right? Serving people is good. Mm-hmm. Going out of your way to meet someone's needs, leaving room in your schedule to spend time with a family is good. Having them over your house and hosting them is good. Going over their house and having a meal with them is good, right? These are all good things. Takes work.
Yeah.
Takes work, but it's good.
But it's fun, too.
And it's fun.
When you're out living life, people, see, like we were talking about with the rules. I've counseled people, and they feel like they've got to do more at church. They've got to, read the Bible more. They got to pray more. They got to go to this ministry. They got to go to church on Sunday. They got to go to church on Wednesday. They've got to be a part of this ministry. They got to volunteer and do all these laundry lists of things. But it's not like that. God's not asking you to do all this stuff to kind of make it even. He did something for you. You got to do something for Him. he calls you to live your life. He gave us all this stuff. He gave us Hawaii to enjoy, to go out and be in the water, to be with people, to be with your ohana, to have this food together. It's fun being with people, having people over, going over to people's house, hanging out, not always being, screen time, TV, phone, iPad, whatever. It's fun living life out with people, playing basketball, playing sports, going out on, like boats. I mean, just living life and enjoying nature. God created all that for us. I mean, it's for us to enjoy. Not saying that sometimes God doesn't call us to sacrifice, and that's when we usually get closer to him. But life is out there. You don't have to go out, and sometimes people even stretch themselves too thin, getting too involved in ministry and church, and they don't have time for their family. They don't have time for their friends. They don't have time for the real ministry, which is reaching people and loving people and meeting those practical needs. And I think that people miss that sometimes.
Yeah.
But going out and living life together with people can be fun. I mean, I like to play basketball on Saturdays. I like to have people over at the house for food, like to have parties, like sit on the deck, drink, look at the view, just enjoy what God's made for us, the koalaus and the bay. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's there for us. Yeah. God created, even we were talking about marriage earlier, the marriage relationship. I mean, all this stuff is for our benefit. The stuff in the Bible is for our benefit, and really, Christians are supposed to be having the most fun, not the least fun, and God's there supporting all that.
Yeah, that's amen to that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's the way to live, man.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
God wants us to have fun and just experience life. He created this world for us, created our spouses for us, our friends, our relationships.
Dude, going back to the rule thing, again, in a book I was reading this morning. This book was so good. I just read it all the way through. But it said, it was obviously a short book. But one of the things they were saying was, when like you look at the character of God, and when he put Adam and Eve in the garden, right? It was a garden of freedom. Yeah. Like they had one rule that they weren't supposed to do. And his argument is that he believes that because we eat it later, right? Because it wasn't like God didn't want Adam and Eve to have knowledge of good and evil. He just wanted to have it when they were ready for it. Right. And he said that, but you think about it, right? God placed them in a garden of freedom. Yeah. Right? There was more freedoms than restrictions, way more. They could do everything except for this one thing. And he says in the same way, like, your house should be a garden of freedom. Right. Like it should be enjoyable. It should be a place where kids can thrive, but that's the thing, right? When we're living in God's world the way God wants, there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of excitement. We know the limits that are going to lead to destruction, but everything within these limits that God has placed for our good means I can enjoy things more than anybody else, right? I can enjoy the beach. I can enjoy the culture. I can enjoy everything to the glory of God. That's his gift to us,
Rebecca and I felt that way about our house, not just for our kids, but for other people's kids. We wanted our house to be the fun house the kids wanted to come to and have fun and be able to experience things and be able to, eat the snacks they like, do the things they like, and just hang out and have fun, so that when, not that we wanted to keep our kids, under surveillance all the time, but we wanted to be the place where people wanted to be. We wanted to be the fun house where people wanted to experience life.
Where you didn't have to walk on eggshells.
Exactly.
Experience the freedom of fellowship, like the real freedom of fellowship. Just like in a church, right? Yeah. And if you're in a good, healthy church, like, dude, it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. Exactly. In a healthy church, people it's a good time.
At Waipahu after the service is over. Yeah. And not sometimes you have food, sometimes you don't, but people hang out and talk for 30, 45, 60 minutes.
Just having a blast. Yeah.
Just getting to know each other, just having fun. You go out to lunch, whatever. If there's food there, you're eating the food. Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was good stuff. I'm excited. You're about to be a grandpa soon.
Yeah, man. Gramps.
But man, I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate your family. You guys, it's crazy thinking the kids are all growing up because they were just youth age.
Yeah, man.
That means I'm growing up too.
Happens fast, man. Take care of that family, because before you know it, they'll be walking out the door.
I know. I don't. Yeah. I got to prepare my heart to let go. I got to prepare my heart to let go and to not micromanage my kids.
Oh, it's hard. But
Yeah. Just let them be there. I remember, I was shooting a wedding. And this was great. First time I ever heard it. I was shooting a wedding, a small wedding. I was a photographer with my sister, and there was a Christian couple, young Christian couple, and the father of the bride got up and he said, this is hard for me, but let me just tell you this, that we've raised you, my daughter, and now my son. I'm sure you were raised the same way, but I raised her for this moment when I would hand her off to you. And I just want to let you guys know that that you guys leave in Cleve and you guys do your thing.
Right.
Even if you guys are around or close by, we'll offer help anytime you need it, but we will not pry and we will not force.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of hard, as parents. You get, so you have to parent every season if you have kids, and it just looks different in every season.
Much different.
But enjoy the ones you're in, because I'm talking to a lot of people that are parenting adult kids or being parented by their parents as an adult, and they're like, "This is what?" It's a confusing thing that no one talks about.
Yeah.
Parenting adult kids. But I appreciate you, and dude, can't wait to do it again.
All right, man.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Good stuff.